Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So alongside update 1.35 we got 3 brand new cars coming to the game. We had a brand new hypercar in the form of the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and then we also had the Subaru Impreza 2004 and the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. Now, I'll be completely honest, at first I wasn't really all that excited about really any of these cars coming to the game. It felt a little bit of a missed opportunity with Le Mans kind of happening around that time, and you know, kind of the 100th anniversary race. I maybe expected something a bit more in the way of possibly a new hypercar or something at least Le Mans or race based, and well, we didn't get that. However, after spending a bit of time with these cars, I'm well quite happy to report that overall this is actually a fantastic selection of cars. However, it just kind of means that update 1.35 kind of falls into the trap of just being purely a car update, as the rest of the update really was a major disappointment, to be quite honest. I mean, we had some very poor events. We had the return of Music Rally, which to be honest most people really aren't too bothered with, and it's just kind of a checklist thing, and overall the actual content of the update just wasn't very good. So essentially the cars are the only thing really holding this update together, and I'm here today to give you my opinion on each of the new individual cars. So we'll start off first with, I guess, the main show of the update, which is the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and the one that most people are really excited for, mainly because it doesn't really feature in too many other places, and it really is a modern hypercar. It's the first time we've got something fairly modern in terms of hypercars in what seems like absolutely forever for Gran Turismo 7 at least. So let's start off with the looks, the price and all that kind of stuff before I talk about how this car actually feels to drive. And well, the Aston Martin Valkyrie is just as nuts as it looks. It really is something quite unique in terms of its appearance. Now, in terms of its price point though, you're talking 4 million credits, and this kind of brings me into why a car invite is still a thing. As you can see here, we've got the 177 and the Vulcan, which are invite only cars, and both cost less. And in my opinion, the Valkyrie is just as special as those two cars. So the fact that the other two are still on an invite system and this one isn't, kind of proves that that system needs to really be kind of, I guess, booted out of the door and never to return. There's no reason to have the invites if we're able to get the Valkyrie, but then not the Vulcan. Now, in terms of the performance of this car, it is absolutely astonishing. It is really quick. Obviously, it does feature a KERS system or an overtake system, which is absolutely lethal in a straight line. Yeah, so it's just absolutely amazing. In the straights through the corners, it's not too bad. Now, at first, it did take me a while to get used to the way this thing handles, but once you've got it nailed down, it really is a very usable car. The only real downside of this vehicle, like a lot of vehicles within GT7, is there's not really many places to use it. Now, obviously, in terms of update 1.35, we had a single event that realistically catered towards the Aston Martin, and that was the return of the Hypercar Parade. However, that was just a single 3-lap race at St. Croix and nothing really else. It is currently on the time trial, but again, you don't need to buy the car to be able to do the online time trial to get those 2 million credits. You can essentially just rent it for a week. So I guess if you do want to get a bit of a taste of this car, in all honesty, just go and do the time trial before you go ahead and spend 4 million credits on this thing. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but in terms of overall usability, in all honesty, there's not that many places to use it. You can massively downgrade this thing and get it running around about 800 pp, but in all honesty, I would just say it's just not that good when downgraded. You really don't get the full effect of what this car is about. So overall, for 4 million credits, the only real downside is that Polyphony don't really give us anywhere to actually use this thing to its full potential. Overall though, it is a fantastically beautiful car. Now let's move on next to, I guess, what would realistically be the weakest of the update for me, and that's no reason in particular or even a bad thing. It's just in terms of, I guess, overall appeal and what I've kind of done with this car and the time I've spent with this car. The Impreza is probably the one that I'd say is, I guess, the least appealing to me, just mainly because there's another car that's going to be spoken about at the end of this video, which you should all know is going to be an absolutely fantastic machine. Overall though, in terms of its looks, it's absolutely stunning. And now there is 2 places to actually buy this vehicle. So you can buy it used with some mileage on. As you can see, we've got one currently in the used dealership for 42,000 credits. In terms of its mileage and such, there's a few miles on this one, 6 61,300 miles. So again, you're going to be getting a used one for a little bit cheaper, but to be quite honest, you may as well just spend the extra 8,000 credits and get one brand new with no mileage on from the Subaru dealership for 50,000 credits. So for the sake of 8,000 credits, you're going to get a brand new, fresh out the dealer model. Now, in terms of the way this car actually feels and, you know, the way it looks and the model that we've got in game, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, to begin with, there is just nothing wrong in general with this car. It's a great vehicle. It looks fantastic. It's got a very reasonable price point. It's just overall, when it comes to actually tuning this thing for specific events, although there's, I guess, more places to actually use this vehicle, and it can handle very good on dirt, which makes it very multi-purpose. Again, it's just the fact that if you want to use it for, say, the likes of a grinding event, maybe 700, it's actually its fuel economy that lets it down. It just requires you to do a lot more lifting and coasting than the car that I'll show you actually last off. However, if you just want to go ahead and just have some absolute fun in this thing, well, you really cannot go wrong. I found myself just kind of putting it in the 600 all-wheel drive Japanese events and just absolutely throwing the thing sideways and having an absolute blast of a time. Again, you can still build it for grinding, so it does have more usability than something like the Aston Martin Valkyrie at this point, which does kind of give it a little bit of an extra appeal for me over something like the Valkyrie. Although the Valkyrie is absolutely unique and very, very good, it's just the fact that it's not very usable, whereas the Impreza really is. There is quite a few events that you can just take this thing in, whether you want to customize it to 600, 700, etc., or you just want to go and do some of the more miscellaneous non-grinding events, then you can really get some time out of this car. And like I said, if you want to kind of mess around with a vehicle, you can do much worse than this Subaru Impreza. Now, a lot of people were kind of slating this thing, saying we don't need another Impreza, this, that and the other, but again, for me, this is one of the more iconic generations of Impreza, and realistically should have been there from day one. The fact that we had the original bunch of Imprezas and then never got this one until so late on is a bit of a, you know, bit of a missed opportunity, to be quite honest. But to be, you know, after having some time with it, I'm just really enjoying this thing and finding it an absolute hoot. Now, in all honesty, if you were going to go for a customizable option, I would fully recommend just going for around about 700 pp over the 600 pp kind of build, and really just kind of going at Le Mans at it. Although the kind of fuel consumption isn't as good as some other cars, it does require you to do a bit of lifting and coasting. You can still earn a plenty enough money with this vehicle, and it really does mean that it's a very versatile overall car. So although I did say this is possibly the weakest one of the bunch, that is definitely taking nothing away from the Impreza. It's just the fact the Valkyrie is just so unique and something refreshing and a lot more modern, and the fact that the Lancer Evo 3 was a massive surprise for me, which I'll kind of explain in a minute. Now, the good thing about this, like I said, is a completely new generation of Impreza to the game. It's one that should have been there originally, and it is overall a very customizable and enjoyable car to drive. So I really cannot complain about this car. I'm having a ton of fun with it, and I'm pretty sure you guys will for the cheap price point of 50,000 credits. So let's move into the biggest surprise of the bunch for me. And well, obviously that's going to be the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. Whilst I've never been the biggest fan of the early generation Evos, probably anywhere from an Evo 1 to an Evo 4, never massively appealed to me. For me, the best looking were like the Evo 5s and the Evo 6s, which for me were absolutely stunning and still are. I'm very much pleasantly surprised by the Evo 3. I kind of went into it with an open mind thinking, okay, again, we're getting another classic JDM car. It's catering to a lot of people that have wanted these cars for a long time, which there seems to be a ton of on Twitter, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. Now, in terms of your price point, there's only one place to actually buy this one, and that is from the used car dealership, which means it will rotate in and out, and it's going to cost you 100,000 credits, which is, you know, a little bit more on the pricey side. Again, it doesn't always make sense at the price point of some of these vehicles, but it's still cheaper and better performs than a lot more expensive vehicles. So as you can see, this one here has a very low mileage of just under 4,000 miles. Now, I've been putting the miles on since, easily racking up about 500 since Thursday, and in all honesty, I've been absolutely loving this car, and it's mainly just due to the tuning potential and the customization options we have available. You can make this thing look massively aggressive. I've kind of built mine around a kind of time attack based vehicle, and I have a bunch of them. I have a 600 build and a 700 build, as well as one that I kind of use just around and about. Now, for the 700 build, in all honesty, that is really where this this car stands out. You can pretty much have this thing fully upgraded to its full potential and be able to grind money with it, which for me is a massive bonus point. And it's insanely quick, although it doesn't have the highest top speed for like the 700 pp grind at Le Mans. Its cornering potential, brakes and acceleration really do launch this thing, and it feels fantastic to drive. It's got a ton of grip, it will never let you down, the rear end will never break, and you can really absolutely hammer it out of corners. And in all honesty, this is a car that I'll probably use for a long time to come, and I'm completely changed on my opinion of these early generation Evos. Once this thing's got its right kit on and it looks a lot more aggressive and more, I guess, fearsome in a way, it really does become a stunning looking vehicle, and it really does feel unique in terms of its place within Gran Turismo 7. So in all honesty, although I kind of, you know, looked at this vehicle from an outside perspective as this one would be the weakest for me, it's actually turned out to be my entire favourite of the update for 1.35. So overall, would I recommend buying these cars? Well, if you want something unique and something fun, go and get your hands on the Aston Martin Valkyrie. It really is something special within Gran Turismo 7, and it really is a proper modern day hypercar. It's just an absolutely crazy machine. Sadly, it's just kind of let down by PD, not really giving it any real places to run for a long period of time without it being a kind of 5 to 3 lap sprint race. The Subaru Impreza, obviously next, is an absolutely beautiful machine, and it's a generation for me that is massively iconic. Maybe not as iconic as the first bunch of Imprezas, but still stands out as a very unique and I guess stunning time from Subaru, and that Impreza will be a massively appealing car to many JDM fans, and it's not disappointing. The only real downside of it is that the Lancer Evo 3 is just better overall when it's tuned, and that means that this thing has been my absolute standout and favourite of the entire update, and I fully recommend picking them up. There really isn't a bad car in this update, and it really does kind of make up for the fact that everything else in this update is pretty terrible, or well, pretty half-arsed. All I'm hoping for in the future is that Polyphony just pull their finger out and give us places to use all of these cars. It's all good putting them in these great machines that we can really tune and I guess in a way make our own, but if there's no way to really use them over a long period of time, then well, what's the actual point? Especially for something like the Valkyrie that is absolutely crying out for a usable event, especially when, you know, you're putting in something that is so unique, and I'm sure many people would go ahead and use on a much more regular basis, actually given the chance. Maybe just do what everybody's been wanting you to do and actually edit those custom events so we get a proper decent payout. That way you don't have to bother putting the events in anymore, and we can essentially make use of all of these cars within the game. So whilst update 1.35 was pretty terrible overall, the saving grace is certainly the cars, and I'd fully recommend picking them all up and giving them a proper good thrashing, especially getting some very specific tunes going with them, and you'll have an absolute blast. Now that's going to be it from me today. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. I upload GT7 and motorsport related content each and every day for your viewing pleasure. If you want to, and you'd be so kind to, feel free to follow me on Patreon and get basically early content, all that kind of stuff, and just support the channel between uploads. Again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, that will be down in the description, as well as my Discord if you want to jump in there. Obviously, I have my league races and all that kind of stuff planned through there, and then it kind of goes through to my website as well. Yeah, massive thank you to each and every single one of you, and I will see you later on. Thanks for the support. Have a great day. Peace.